Hey guys, in this video we'll be learning assign multiple values to multiple variables and I'm using Python idle. So how can you assign multiple values to multiple variables in Python programming? So here I have got a small story. Let's read this. A customer whose first name is Rakesh and his middle name is Kumar and his last name is Behra store all the three values in three different variables. So the question is, you have to store all the values in three different variables and most probably in the single line. Okay, let me write this in the single line during your Python programming. In the single line you have to write. And the next is print the full name with a space. You have to print the full name with a space. That means the first variable is containing Rakesh, the second variable containing Kumar, and the third variable containing Behra. Now this has to be printed like this: Rakesh space Kumar space Behra. So how to do that? Let's see in Python. Okay, how this can be achieved in Python. Let's understand that. Okay, now the very first thing what I will do, I'm going to write three different variables and I am going to follow the camel case. So in the previous video I have shown you what is a camel case, what is a snake case, what is a Pascal case. So I'm using the camel case. So first name comma, in the single line I have to write, right? So first name and then I'll give a space and then let me write middle name. Okay, I have to maintain the standard. So middle name comma and then last name. Fine, I have written all the three variables. Now I have to assign values to them. So how can I assign values to all these three variables? Very simple. Write equals to and then you will use either double quote or single quote, doesn't matter. I'll say Rakesh, the first name, give it a comma. Remember, anytime there are multiple things, you're applying a comma. Very simple. Double quote and here I'm going to say Kumar and then comma and then I want to say, doesn't matter if you give a space after comma or not, that doesn't matter, but ensure you are giving a comma. So what happens, the first one get assigned to the first variable, second one, third one. Getting it? So this way store all three values in three different variables in the single line. So this is done, this is achieved in the Python programming. Now the second ask is you need to print the full name with a space. So how do you print all these three variables? So let's do that. In Python I am going to write simple print command and then I'll use parenthesis and within that I have to write three different variables. Because they are variables, you don't have to use double quote. I'll simply say first name comma, I have to give a space. So remember, now within double quote I am giving a space, simple, and then giving it then a comma. Remember, comma is very important. And here then I have to write the second variable, and the way you have written the variable, the case and everything has to match because Python variables are case sensitive, right? So let's put double quote, give it a space, comma, and then I'm going to say last name. Sorry, it's not a variable, so it's a variable, doesn't need that. So let's write last name. Okay, ensure the way you have written the variables it is matching properly, otherwise it will throw error. So what would happen, because I have given two spaces within the double quote, what would be the output? So to run it, you can hit on run or directly hit on F5. Is going to ask you to save it, hit on OK. Now look at this. So the output has appeared. What is the output? Rakesh Kumar Behra. So did we achieve this? So this is a learning. How do you assign multiple values to multiple variables? So this is the format. If you maintain, your output will properly appear. So you can see my output has properly appeared, Rakesh Kumar Behra. Hey guys, myself Rakesh, and in this video our agenda is how can you add one value to multiple variables. So this we can learn with a very interesting example. So here let's say there are 5 students, student 1, student 2 and student 3, 4, 5. All these 5 students are going for an interview, or they have gone for an interview. In the interview, 3 students were chosen, or 3 students only got selected and 2 were rejected. So who are those students who got rejected? Student number 1 got rejected and the student number 5 got rejected. That's a bad day for them. But the good days, student 2, 3, 4, these 3 people got selected. Use Python program to store the selected and rejected values. So how do you do it? Right, very interesting. So that's where you will be using adding one value to multiple variables, so let's see how to do it. So here what I'm going to do, so who are the students who got failed? Student 1 and student 5. So I'm going to write student 1 equals to student 5 equals to, you can say rejected or you can say failed, whatever you want to say. Okay, so I'm giving a single value to 2 different variables. And what happened to the next one? Student 2 equals to, so student 2, 3, 4, this 3 people got selected. So let's write it, student 3 equals to student 4 equals to, and I'm going to say congratulations, selected. Okay, some value I'm just trying to put it. So what is happening? One value I am assigning to multiple variables, right? Let's say, just think student 1 and student 2, these are 2 friends. Student 1 and student 2 are very close friends. So they wanted to check their results. So I'll say print and I will say student and ensure the variables in Python is case sensitive. So I have to write in the same format. S capital means S capital. Okay. Student 1 comma student 2. So they wanted to see their result of the interview. So when we use this command in Python, the Python command print student 1 comma student 2, and if I run this Python program, what is the output I will get? By hitting on F5 also you can do it. So what is the output? So for the first one, student 1, it has printed failed, and the second one it has printed congratulations, selected. Okay, so let's say I want to give little space just to differentiate both of this. So what I can do in the print command, let's give little space and then, okay, I want to specify some, give some space. So I've done that, and let's hit on F5, hit on OK. So what is the output? Okay, why there is an invalid syntax? Yes, because I need to provide a comma. Very simple. Okay, now let's do F5, hit on OK. So what happened? The first one is say it failed. There's a symbol I've given, and then congratulations, selected. Or you can give it a comma. Let's say I don't want a dash, that doesn't look appropriate, so semicolon or whatever you want to use. Okay, something like this. Now if you do F5, hit on OK, it's up to you how do you like to program. Failed and congratulations, selected. So the student 1 failed and this one has got selected, right? So this is how we can print. So you can see how we have assigned one value to multiple variables, right? Here we have assigned it to multiple variables, and this value we have assigned to 3 different variables. So thank you for watching, guys. We are going to come up with more such interesting examples with which you can remember the facts, the codes of Python very easily. Packing a collection in Python programming. So what is a collection first of all? So for this, let's say there is a game, there's a tournament happening, there's a chess tournament happening, and there are 2 teams called team 1, team 2. So when there's a team, there are multiple people. So that is where you have to use a collection, right? So collection team 1, I will use a equals to mark, and then I'm using 2 square brackets. Fine. Now in the square brackets, I'm going to write some 3 names. Let's say John, comma, and the other person is, let's say, Steve, and the third person is, let's say, Rob. Okay, these are the 3 people from team 1. So what happens by mentioning this will become a collection. Remember, this is a collection. Okay, collection of 3 different values or multiple values. Now here I'm going to say team 2. Now let's form the team 2. Again I'll use two square brackets, and then I'm going to provide some name. Let's say Carson is first name, and let's say I'm going to say Smith the second name, and the third name, let's say I'm going to say Joey. Okay, so this is the team 2. Now because it's a chess game, that means two people will play against each other. Chess tournament, right? So John will play with Carson, Steve will play with Smith, Rob will play with Joey. So how do you do it in Python? Very interesting question, isn't it? So first of all, let's try to print, because the first thing we wanted to see is, if I've created a collection, can I print it? Yes, you can print it. Simple. I'm going to write team1 and hit on F5, hit on OK, and you can see it has printed the team1, which consists of John, Steve and Rob. Correct? John, Steve and Rob. The team1 has been printed quite well. Now let's say I wanted to form three different groups, right? John, Carson, Steve, Smith and Rob, Joey. So for this, there is something called unpacking comes into picture. Unpacking in Python programming. So how will you do unpack in Python? How is that possible? It's very simple. Let me take some three variables, a comma b comma c. A comma b comma c equals to, and I'm going to say team1. Very simple. See, by doing this, what would happen? The values that are there in team1, John, Steve and Rob, the John will get assigned to A, Steve will be assigned to B and Rob will be assigned to C. Very simple. Unpacking. So this is the unpacking. Now let's do it for the second team. So I'm going to use three other variables, x comma y comma z is equals to, I'm going to say team 2, but ensure the way you are writing the variables, because they are case sensitive, you have to write in the very similar way. So now I have unpacked. Now the interesting question is, I have to form three different groups, right? So I need to print the names. Let's say print, and I'm going to say double quote, I'm going to say players in group 1 colon, and I want to print the player name. So how do I print the player names? Give it a comma. Very simple. Give it a comma, and the group 1 will have A, that means John, right? John and Carson. So I'm going to say A comma X, and in between, while it is printing, I want to give a double quote A, and I'm going to write the N symbol, okay, and give it a comma here. So look at the format I have written. A, that means it's going to print player in group 1, A, that means John, and X means Carson. Okay, because we have unpacked. So this is a practical example. Let's copy this and hit on enter, paste it. Now here simply change the values. Group 1, this will become, so group spelling I have made it wrong. So let's say OUP and then OUP, and this will be group 2, and instead of A I will say it is B, instead of X I will say it is Y. Done. Now let's print the same thing, copy paste, and here I will say group, and this is the third group, and this is between the C, that is Rob, and the Z, that is Joey. Done. Now let's run it and let's see what is the output is coming. So we have learned with a very simple example, unpacking a collection. Okay, so let's do F5, hit on OK. Now look at the output. Has it given the right result to us? Players 1 in group 1, John and Carson, Steve and Smith, and then Rob and Joey. So it has given us the, so this is one of the practical example where I need to unpack it, right? This is one of the example. So thank you guys for watching it. We are going to come up, I'm pretty sure, with this kind of examples, it will be very interesting to learn the concepts in Python programming. So thank you for watching it. We are going to meet again in our next video. Hey guys, myself Rakesh, and I welcome you back to my channel Automate with Rakesh. Here our agenda for the training is when to use comma and plus sign during your print command when to go for a comma and when to go for a plus sign in Python coding. Let's understand that. Okay, there are very interesting facts that you are going to learn in case you are not aware. For example, let's say I'm going to create a variable x is equals to, and I'm going to say my channel name, I will say automate. Okay, and then I'm going to say y is equals to, and I'm going to say automate and then width, and then hit on enter. Then I'm going to say z is equals to, and I'm going to say Rakesh. Okay, automate with Rakesh. These are the three variables storing three different data. Now what would happen if you say print, and then in the bracket, in parenthesis, I'm going to say x comma y comma z. What will happen? And what will happen if you print x plus y plus z, close the parenthesis? So what would happen if I print in this way? So let's see that. Let me execute, let me run this, hit on OK. So what happened? The first one with a comma, these are three different words without a space, Now these three different words, when we did XYZ, right, with a comma, the output, look at the output. Let me close this. Okay, let's run it again. Let's let it open a new page. So what happened? The first one with a comma, right, it showed automate with Rakesh, and the second one with a plus sign, it is showing automate with Rakesh without space. So if you have to use, if you have to concat something, you don't need a space, then you can go with a plus sign. If you need a space, right, to print something, you can simply use a comma. Okay, very interesting facts about the comma and plus in Python while you are using the print command. Right, now the next thing, what would happen? Let's say instead of y, I want to give it some value. Let's say 1. Okay, automate 1 Rakesh. So let's say I'm giving a numeric value. The moment I provide a numeric value, see, there will be an error. Which one will give error? This command will give error or this one? Do you know? So let's see that. Hit on F5, hit on OK. So what happened? The first one XYZ, it has printed automate 1 plus Rakesh, and there is a space given for each of the variable values. But for the second one, x plus y plus z, because it is a numeric value, it thrown an error. Can only concatenate string, not integer to string. Okay, right? We cannot do a concatenation for both numeric value and string values. Okay, very interesting facts that you must know. Thank you guys. We are going to meet again in our next video. In this video, we are going to learn creating and calling function in Python. Function, right? The moment you hear the word function, we are confused. What is function? It says function is a block of code. Again, you will have a doubt, what is the block of code again? And that only executes when it is invoked or called. So let's see a very good example which would help you to understand what is a function, what do I mean by block of code, and it only executes when it is invoked or called. So the entire meaning will be very, very clear. Now for this, we will take an example. Let's say I have a company called ABC dot something like that. Okay, I have a company, just for an example, and any customer who comes, I would like to greet the customer with a message. Let's say, welcome to ABC company. I want to greet the customer. And in a company, there could be multiple customers will be coming, and I need to say the same sentence several times, right? So with this example, we need first of all, we need to create a block of code which would, print this welcome to ABC company. So for that, so when it comes to function, the function is actually defined. You need to define it. So to define it, you use the keyword def. Def stands for define. Okay, now here, because this is, I'll give a name called welcome message, and here I'm going to use the parenthesis and a colon. Look at this, I'm going to explain. And then the moment you hit on and enter, what happened? There's an indent, there is a space. By default it will come. Okay, so do not remove the space. The space has to be there, otherwise the block of code will not function. This is a rule, so the space has to be there. Now here I will say print, and I'm going to say welcome to abc dot 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 something like that. Okay, company. Okay, so I have defined a function. So this is known as a block of code. It could be anything. Okay, you can do addition, subtraction, anything. It could be any kind of a calculation. But again, in simple terms, this is a block of code. A function is a block of code that only executes when it is invoked or called. So what is the meaning? For example, let's say I wanted to so go back in the line. I'm going back to the main line, and here let's say I want to call this welcome message, and I'm going to simply call it. Okay, and no colon will be used, simply a parenthesis is enough. Okay, remember, look at the syntax, the way I'm writing. There's no space, there's a colon, all these are syntax, and it has to be written the same exact way. And I want to call this, so this time what I'm doing, I'm simply calling it. Okay, I'm simply calling it. Hit on F5. I'm going to run this. I'm using idle, so run this piece of code. So what would happen? It is automatically printing welcome to ABC company, isn't it? So I can do it multiple times. Let's say there are multiple customers, this can be called several times. So I have to write in the exact way, okay, with the parenthesis, and I need to run it. F5. Okay, so you can see as many times I am calling it, it is saying welcome to ABC company, welcome to ABC company. So I can call, I don't have to write this code several times now. Print welcome to ABC company, print welcome. So with the just by calling it, it does the job for me. Now there is a question, Rakesh, this is not enough. Let's say the customer has a name. You need to greet him with his name. You want to make it more personalized message. So how this can be done? Yes, that can also be done using, let's say I'm going to create a argument known as customer name. So what is this? So remember how we have defined, how you have to define a function. First you have to write def, which is for define, and then you have to write the function name. You can give any name you want, any name, doesn't matter. So welcome message, right? So apart from the reserved names, so you are giving a name. Okay, you are giving a name, and then inside this parenthesis you'll be using something called arguments. So whatever you are mentioning inside this is an argument. For example, let's see a demo. Okay, let's see a demo how this one works. So here what I have done, I have written customer name, and in the print, while it is printing, I will say customer name. Okay, I'm writing, these are all case sensitive, welcome message, customer name. So the variables are case sensitive, so ensure the names are case sensitive, so ensure we are typing in the same way without any spelling mistake. And also lowercase, uppercase, everything has to match exactly the same in Python. Print customer name, I'm putting a comma, right, and I will give it a dash and then comma, and I'm going to say welcome to, or else just to make it more simpler, I can put a dash before this. That also does a job. So customer name Rakesh, and then we'll say welcome to ABC company. So how do I use this? To call this, all I have to do to call the function, the entire block of code, all I have to do, I have to use the function name. What is the function name? Welcome message. This is the function name, and in the bracket this time, last time I was leaving blank because there was no argument. Here I have used an argument. Now I can pass a value to it. For example, I'm saying Rakesh, any value I can pass. So I'm passing Rakesh. So what would happen, just by calling this welcome message function and passing the name as Rakesh, it is going to print Rakesh, welcome to ABC company. So this is very interesting. Let's run it. F5, hit on OK, and you can see it said Rakesh, welcome to ABC company. Getting it? So it is giving a name. Let's say you want to do, instead of customer name, right, one more very important thing, what would happen if I call it as like this, welcome message. So I made a small mistake. Instead of writing in capital letter, I'm writing in lowercase. Okay, everything else remains the same. I'm going to simply write, let's say Rakesh, any name you can pass, by the way. So what would happen if I run this? F5. So there are two times I'm calling it. Okay, let's see what is the output. Now for the first one it has printed properly. For the second one it said there is an error. What is the error? Welcome message is not defined. Did you mean welcome message? So having a small mistake, it won't work. So ensure the way you have written, uppercase, lowercase, the exact way you have to write it. Okay, that is one of the important point in Python you need to remember. So what happened here? I have passed the customer name. So it is happily printing the customer name. I can pass any value to it. Let's say instead of customer name, I want to use the customer ID. So I'm saying cust ID. With customer name, I also want to print the customer ID. So for that, what I will do in the printing block, in the printing line where I'm printing the message, I'm going to make a little change. I'll say customer name, and then in I'll use a single quote, and then give it let's say I wanted to write it in or let's use a small dash. Okay, for example, after customer name I'm using a small dash, and here I'm putting a comma. Okay, and after that, look at this, how I'm writing. By making small mistake, this will become a problem. So for this colon, and then I have given a comma, and this again is there in the double quotes. Here I will write customer ID, and ensure the way you are writing it has to match as per the function. So I'll say cust ID. Okay, and give it a comma is very important. So customer name, and then it will print a dash, and then it will say customer ID, then it is going to print this. Okay, now let's see how this one is working. Okay, so I will say I will take the name of the function welcome message, and in the bracket I need to pass two different arguments. Now one is the customer name and the customer ID. So let's say I'm going to print some other name, let's say John. Okay, comma, and customer ID. So the customer 1 2 3 4 5 6 is the customer ID, let's say. So what would happen? This John will pass to customer name when you are calling this function. 1 2 3 4 5 6 will pass to customer ID, and as per the block of code it's supposed to print it. So it is going to use those values and print it. Very simple. So let's run it. F5. So you can see John, customer ID, welcome to ABC company. So you can do lot of customization. Okay, now you can think, once you have understood how it is working, you can do lot of customization, up to you. Now let's take another example. Let's say I want to do some addition. So what is the benefit of this? I can call the function several times because this is having only one line of code. Just imagine there are multiple lines of codes, very big, it is doing a lot of work. So you don't want to write the same set of instructions several times in a project. You would like to call, define it as a function, and you would like to call that and do what it's supposed to do just by calling the name, right? So let's say I want to do a sum. Okay, so I will create another function and I will say addition. Okay, or the, let's say, purchase order. um, um, let's take simple example. Okay, I'm saying addition. Okay, I'm creating a function and given a name, define addition, and then here in the addition I'm going to pass two different values. One is to the argument x, this is argument y. So remember what is argument here? Within the function, when I'm writing two variables, this becomes an argument. Okay, so I've defined, and once you define, colon is very important. Colon represents the block of code, so ensure colon is given, then hit on enter. So what would happen the moment you do that? It automatically understands this is a block of code, and it provides an indent or a space automatically. Okay, the moment you hit on enter, it automatically provides an indent or a space. Now let's say I want to print, and I want to sum it. So I will say x, and then I will say plus, and I want to say y. So what would happen? Whatever the value we are passing, it is going to add it. Okay, now let's keep it simple, and let's call this function. Go give it a backspace, and I want to call and write it in the same. Okay, they are case sensitive, so I'm going to write in the same way, and here I'm going to pass two values. So I'm going to pass 10 comma, I'm going to pass 20. What I'm passing? 10 comma 20 I'm passing. So what should be the output? 30 should be the output. So let's run it. F5. Okay, So you can see the output is 30. Now you can do a lot of modification. You want to say that the sum is, you want to write all that, right? For example, the sum or the addition value is whatever value is, you know, something like that you want to type. You can do that, give it a comma, very, very important. Okay, now let's run it again. F5, hit on OK. So the sum value is 30, right? So what would happen by defining such small block of codes, or maybe a large block of code, doesn't matter. It is easy for me to call this block of code several times in the project. Let's say the addition has to be done 10 times or 20 times in a project. You don't want to write the same formula several times. You will define it first, you will make it a function, and then call it several times. I can call it several times and I can pass various values. Let's say next time I want to do addition of 39 comma something like that. Okay, so if I have to do that, so what would happen? Even this is going to work. For example, if I hit on F5, okay, the first one the sum value is 30, for the second one the sum value is 497. Understanding? So it becomes very easy to provide a different value and get what we need, right? So that's where we are using arguments. So this is again a basic information about function. There are a lot many things we are going to learn as we proceed. Hey guys, myself Rakesh and welcome back to Automate with Rakesh channel. In this video, we are going to focus on what is a local variable and what is a global variable in Python. Right? In Python, they are very important. What is a global and what is a local variable? Based on the definition, the global variable created outside of a function. Now, you must have knowledge about function. If not, this video is going to help you to understand everything in detail. Okay, and can be used inside the function and outside. Okay, what is this meaning? Okay, we need to understand first of all. So function, when it comes to function, you start defining a function. For example, I wanted to do addition. Okay, so I will say, I'll give it a name to the function called addition, and I'm going to define it using def keyword. This is the very important keyword, define. And the name of the function I'm giving as addition. I'm using parenthesis and a colon. Getting it? So how do you create a function? You write define, you provide the function name and use a parenthesis and a colon. Very simple. And then let's say I want to add. Okay, so I want to add. So here I'm going to simply say print and I'm going to show a message. This function is about adding numbers, something like this. I'm just giving a simple print command. So let's say I will write few more things inside that. Before that, the moment you hit enter, just notice here you have put a semicolon. The moment you are hitting enter, what is happening? By default in the line, so let me enable the line. Okay, by default in the line you can see there is an indent or there is a space given, and this space is very, very important. If you skip this space, your function will not work. So don't do anything with the space. You have to have at least one space. That is the rule. So I have created the function named addition. Now I want to use it. So I'll go to the next line and I'm going to hit on the backspace and I want to call this function. Okay, I'm taking a very simple example. Just by taking its name and writing a parenthesis, I'll be able to call the function. So what is defined? The function is a block of code. Okay, so in this block of code, I'm simply printing this function is about adding numbers. So let's do a run. Let's run it by F5. Hit on OK to save this. So what is the output that has come? This function is about adding numbers. Okay, now what if I will create some values. Okay, let's say I want to say x is equals to 100 and I'm going to say y is equals to 200. So what I'm doing here, I'm creating two variables, and these variables when created inside a function, that becomes a local variable. Okay, when you are creating variables inside a function, so this is the function block. right? So you don't have to end the function will automatically end the moment you are hitting a backspace. The function completes over here. So this two variables becomes local variables. Okay, now let's say I want to do some kind of a sum. So I will say print, I'm going to say print, and here in the parenthesis I'm going to say x plus y. I'm doing x plus y. So now if I call this function with the name addition and try to run this, what would happen in the line number 11? It's going to print it. It is going to do the job, and you can see the output has come, right? What is the output? Here 100 plus 200, it has added. This function is about adding numbers and the 300. Let's say you want to make a little bit of more changes. The addition value is something like that you want to write, and after this double quote I'm going to give it a comma. So now let's run it again, hitting on F5. Okay, so what happened? This function is about adding numbers. The first thing has been printed, right? This has been printed, and after adding it is saying the addition value is 300. Getting it? So the variables which are created inside a function will be known as local function. So this is clear. What is a local variable? So the variables created inside of functions are called local variables. So this is clear. Now what about a global variable? So global variable is actually defined outside of a function, created outside of a function. Let's say I want to create another variable called z, for example. Z is equal to 300. Okay, what I'm doing, I'm creating another variable called z. So this z variable will become a global variable because this is created outside of your function. So this becomes a global variable. Simple. Now let's say I want to add z. So what I will do, plus z. So what is the output will come? 300 plus 100, 400 plus 200, 600 the output should come. Now I am calling the function. Let's call by just typing the name addition. The name of the function is addition and parenthesis. That's all. The moment I hit on F5 and hit on OK, so what is happening? The addition value is coming 600. Why it is coming 600? Because the global variable, it is using two local variables x plus y and also using the global variable. So at the end, what is the output? 600. So with this basic understanding we have got what is a local variable, what is a global variable. Now let's make little more modification. Okay, what we will do, let's delete all this. Within the block of the function I'm deleting everything, and here let's say I'm going to say x is equals to 100. What I'm doing, I'm saying x is equal to 100. Here I am inside this block, ensure the space is maintained properly. Okay, otherwise your function will not work, it will throw error. Okay, so now I am in the right indent, in the right space. Here I am going to say x is equal to 200. So what I'm using the same variable name, but here inside the function I'm giving a different value to it. What I'm saying, x is equal to 200, and here I'm going to use print. Within parenthesis I'm going to write x. So now tell me, the print, this print will print 100 or it is going to print 200? Tell me what it's going to print. Is it going to print 100 or is it going to print 200? So let's do that experiment. So I'm calling the function over here in the line number 13. Delete the space. Okay, so in the line number 12 I am calling the function addition. Okay, so what would happen? What is the output? Is it going to print 100 or is it going to print 200? Because you can see there is a global variable called x is equal to 100, and also in the local I am saying x is equal to 200. So what it becomes, this x will become a local variable and is going to print the local variable. Within the function, the local variable will take precedence and it is going to print 200. So let's see that. Let's do a F5, hit on OK. So what is the output it has come? It is printing 200. It's not printing 100. Okay, because I am calling the function, whatever you have mentioned in the function, inside the function will take precedence or will take priority. So this is understood. Now let's say under addition, under the line number 13, I am going to print and I'm going to say x. Now tell me what will be printed. Is it going to print 200 or is it going to print 100? Is it going to print the value of the global variable or the local one? So it will, because I am not using the function, I am not calling the function. In the line number 13, I am simply printing the global variable. So the output should come as 100. So let's run it. So what is the output? The first output for the function for the line number 12, what is the output? For the line number 12, the output has come as 200. Okay, and for the line number 13, the output has come as 100. So this must give you a clear understanding how the global variable and local variable are working. Now let's say you will say, Rakesh, what if I do not want to create a local variable? I do not want to create a local variable, but using the global variable itself. Okay, I'm deleting everything. I'm simply in the function. Now the previous value in the global variable was 100. Now you will say, Rakesh, I don't want to create a local variable here as x. What I want to do, I want to simply change the global variable. How can I do that? Can be done just by typing global. Okay, global x. So what I am doing, I am trying to call the global variable x. Okay, now here in the global variable, I want to make a change. So let's say I'm going to say x is equal to 200, or let's say x is equal to 500. So what is happening? Whatever the default value was there in the line number 6, which was 100, here because I am saying global, so the spelling is incorrect, global. Okay, global x. Now what is happening? It is going to call the global x and is going to assign a new value to it, 500. So globally the value will become 500 now. So if I call it, so this is inside the function, everything in the same line. So this is the complete block of code. I'll hit on enter, double enter, going back, and let me simply call the function called addition. Okay, so what will be the output? Because here I am assigning x is equal to 500 to the global variable. Let's see, and I am also going to simply print. Okay, print, and in the parenthesis I am going to use the x, which is the global variable. Now the output will come 100 or the output is going to 500 because we have used the keyword global x. That means it's going to completely change the value which was there globally 100. It is going to completely change the value to 500, and then when I do a print x, let's see what's going to happen. Okay, because I'm running the function before the print x, what would happen? So let's do a F5, hit on OK. So what is the output? The first addition in the line number 13, the output is 500, and also in the print x, the output is 500. Now the question comes, what if I print before calling the function? Let's say I'll give it a space so that it's easy to understand. So print, and here I am printing x. So what is happening here in the line number 30? I am not calling addition, so the x value still remains 100. So here it should print 100, and here it should print 500. And if I use a print below this, getting it? Now it should print 500 again. So how it is happening? Let's see that. Hit on F5, hit on OK. So what happened? The first print, right? The first print where I'm simply saying print x, it has printed 100. Then it went to in the line number 14, it called the function and it has printed the first line. The function is about adding numbers, and then it is printing the x, okay, in the line number 14, and the output of that is 500. Getting it? Now if I'm printing print x, now because globally the x value has changed, now the print x value is coming 500. Getting it? So with this example you should be pretty clear. If not, please do watch it from the again and try to do the same thing how I am doing. You will have a complete understanding. So just to summarize, local variable are the ones which are created inside the function. Global variables are the one which are created outside of the function. Can be used inside the function and outside. So I am using this x is equal to 100 inside the function, and also I can print it outside. Okay, so this becomes the complete function. Okay, wherever you see this space until here, this is a block of a code. This is the entire block of the code, and this function is using the global variable. If I have to change the global variable, all I have to use the word global and say x, whatever value I am providing inside that, it is going to take precedence. Okay, once the function is called, once the function is running, after that whenever you type print x, it is only going to show 500 because the value has been changed after calling the function. Okay guys, so this example should be experimented pretty well and understood pretty well. So this is all about local and global variable in Python. In this video, we are going to learn Python data types, and we are going to focus on number kind of a variable. Okay, the data types, for example, integer, string, those are all different data types, right? So let's understand. In number, there are three different data types. It could be an integer, that means it's a whole number. It could be a float, that means a decimal number, or it could be a complex number. Many people have a good understanding what is an integer, what is a float, but a complex is a bit of confusion in most of us. So let's clear that through this example. So first of all, let's create some variables. So the moment you create a variable and you assign a value, it automatically understand, okay, the data type of x is now integer. Let's say I'm saying y. If I'm typing 5 so the Python will understand that now the y variable is a float data type. If I say z is equals to, let's say I'm saying 8j, okay, something like that. The moment I type or let's say minus 8j, anything I type, so this j denotes the imaginary number or the complex number. I'm going to talk about that. Now Python will understand, okay, the z variable is now a complex kind of a data type or a complex number. Okay, now you will be interested to see how do I see the data type. You said the moment you are assigning a value, the variable data type is determined. If I'm assigning 3, it says, okay, x is a integer type. If I'm assigning in a decimal number, then it understands a float. So how do I see that, Rakesh? Very simple. All you do, type print, and in the parenthesis you type is the function, and I'm going to understand the type of x, and I'm going to close the print. So what I'm doing, using the type function, I am able to identify what is the type for x. So let's run it, for example. Okay, if I run it, for x it is an integer type. Okay, the same thing we can copy paste just to see what are the other two types. Copy paste, and here I'm going to say y, and here I'm going to say z. Done. Three things are done. Let's run it. So what happened? Integer, float, and complex. The third one is a complex types. Okay, so we understood. Now the question is integer. Now we'll go one by one. Okay, we'll start with the integer. Let's say I'll take only the x variable. Now let's say x is equal to 3. Okay, now this is an integer. Now anything, even let's keep those y. I'm just focusing on integer now. Okay, if I say minus 3, is it an integer? Yes, it is also an integer. Any whole number, remember, any whole number is an integer type. So what if I type 3 or minus 3 or whatever you type, right? So all this will become an integer type. For example, if I print x, copy, and but it should not have decimal. Okay, integer means it should only be the whole number, no decimal. This is the point you should remember. If it has a decimal, then it will become a float type. So if I print x and y, for both of this it should show me they are whole numbers. It should show me the class is integer, or the data type should be integer type. It's an integer, it's a whole number. Okay, you can see the output has come integer, even though it's a negative number. Understood? Positive or negative, but again it should be a whole number, not having a decimal. Now the moment you have a decimal, then it will become a float. The moment I have a decimal, let's say for example 3 point something I'm typing. Okay, now even in the negative number, if I print now, if I do F5, this will become a float type. The moment you have a decimal, this will become a float type. So the thing that you should remember, if anything has a decimal, then the data type should be a float type. It will automatically assign the float data type to X. Getting it? Now let's say complex. Complex. What is complex? Okay, first thing is, what is complex? Generally, the complex, I will explain, okay, that what is complex is very important. Now, if I say X is equal to, if I say X is equal to minus 5j, I'm going to explain, okay. The j, generally I is written in those who are mathematicians, they should know I is an imaginary number. Similarly, in Python, instead of I, the j is used to donate the imaginary part. So what is this imaginary part, right? Big question in all of our mind. So don't worry, I am going to help you a little bit. So here, if I print this, first of all, let's print this. If I'm printing X, what is the type? It is saying complex type. So what is this complex type, Rakesh? Don't worry, let me help you. Let's say if I ask you 5 into 5, how much? 25, right? So square root of 25 is equal to 5. Similar way, for example, 8 into 8 is equal to how much? 64. So square root of 64 become 8. That means when you are multiplying two numbers, some value is coming, and if you put a square root of that, some value is coming. Now if I ask you square root of minus 1, what I'm asking you, can you using your calculator also, if you calculate, if I ask what I'm asking you calculate square root of minus 1. Getting my question? If I asking you calculate the square root of 25, the value is 5. Calculate the square root of 64, the value is 8. It's very simple, you know. Or say here there is also a table where they are showing square root of 2. I mean, when you're multiplying 1.4.1 in 2 times, right, with the same number, the output should come 2. That means if you are multiplying 8 into 8, the output should come 64. That is the meaning. Now if I ask you calculate the square root of minus 1, now the value is actually an imaginary number. You cannot calculate, it's an imaginary number, but something has to exist, right? When I square root, I mean something should multiply to create a number, right? For example 2, or for example 6. 3 into 3 3 into 2 is equal to 6, or let's say 9. 3 into 3 is equal to 9. There is something to create it. Now for minus 1, what is creating it? So that's where the scientists have said, okay, it's an imaginary number. It's an imaginary number. So to donate that imaginary number, mathematicians started using I. But in Python, the same I is replaced with a j. Okay. So here, this is a real number and there is an imaginary number. There is something understanding. So that is the whole meaning of a complex number. If you are not into mathematics, so you don't have to really worry about this so much. But again, you got an understanding what is a complex number. Just typing a j will donate that as a complex number, and if you want to print that, if you want to print the type of that, you can just see it by typing X. Okay, that is more or less about the complex numbers. Okay, having a little bit of understanding will be of lot of help. Today we are going to learn about the Python number variable type conversation. Okay, so we saw there are 3 different types. One is the integer, the other one is the float, and the third one we have understood with example about the complex data type in the previous video. Now let's see how we can convert this. For example, we'll start with a very simple example. I'll say X is equals to, and let me give a number. Let's say I'm going to give 8, and let's say Y is equals to, let me give some number, let's say 5.236. And similar way for Z, let me give a number, let's say 8j, something like that. Okay, I'm giving 3 different values. So what happened? The X variable becomes an integer type. The Y, the moment I'm assigning the value, the Y becomes the float data type, and the Z becomes the complex data type. Now the question here, Rakesh, how can I convert this to a different data type? For example, the X is an integer type. I want to convert that to float. That can be done using a simple method. So let me write it as A equals to, and I'm going to convert that to float, right? Float, and I'm going to say convert X, which is currently an integer value or integer type of a variable, convert that to float type. Okay, and let's do a print of this. I'm going to say print a, and let's do a run. The moment you run this, you will see what happened. The x, which was a whole number, which was just 8, has been converted to a decimal by putting dot o. Getting it? Pretty simple. Now let's say you want to convert the y, which is a float data type, into integer format. So I will say int, and then all I have to do, instead of x, I will say y. So it's going to convert y into integer type. Very simple. So let's run it. Control S, F5, and here you can see the 5.236, which had a decimal number, now has been converted. The decimal number has been removed and it is converted to an integer data type. So it has printed a integer. Getting it? Similar way, if you like to convert the any integer value to complex. Okay, so let's do one thing. I'm going to type complex, and then I'm going to type, let's say, the value I want to convert. Let's say x I want to convert into a complex type, which is an integer. Now let's do a Control S and F5, hit on enter, and you can see the number 8 has been converted back to OZ. J is an imaginary number, and I have explained what is this imaginary number in the previous video. But the same thing cannot be done. You cannot convert a complex number to integer. For example, I am saying integer and convert Z, which is an imaginary number or a complex number. I want to convert that to integer. This is not possible. You cannot convert a complex to a different type. So you can see there is an error. Argument must be string, byte like object, or real number, not complex number. That means you cannot, using this method, you cannot convert a complex number into an integer type. However, you can convert a string, or you can also convert a float into integer type. So that's all about the video. Try this on your Python idle and you should be able to understand everything in detail. In this one, we are going to understand what are Python modules, right? What are these modules first of all, and why to use it, when to use it, what is the location? All these answers we will get. I'm going to give you an example, a module. I'll give you an example of a module which is random. Random is a module. Okay. Now, what are these modules? I'm going to show you. First of all, we need to understand where these modules resides, or what is the location of this Python modules, right? So I'm saying import, and then I'm going to take it a name called random. And how do I know there is a module called random? All these questions are there in your mind, yes or no? All I have to do is simply write import random. Okay, hit on enter, and then type print, and print the, once you import that random, and say print random. Just do this. Okay, hit on save it and run it. The moment you run this, what would happen is going to exactly show you where this module random locates on your system. So it is there in my C drive, program files, Python 3.10, library, random.py. So immediately let's go to that location. So I'll go to C drive, I'll go to program files, and then then Python 3.10, and then there is something called library, and then select one of the file and just type random. Okay, the moment you type, you will find this is the module. Okay, so what we done, what is this module? If you look at the output, this is a .py, this is a Python file. Random.py is a Python file. Let's open this Python file by clicking on edit with idle and click on this. So what would happen, you will be able to access the random.py file. You can see this is the random.py file, and within that we have got all different properties of this. For example, random dot, rand range, random, rand int, right? Shuffle, triangular. There are so many different properties that we can use of this module. So what we understood, modules are nothing but a piece of code or a block of codes or a file or a PY file which contains all the codes within it. Okay, so that we can import this particular file and utilize it in our program. We can utilize this .py file in our program. So let's see how we can utilize. For that, let's go to the my program file. Here I will go, and let's start utilizing it. Okay, we saw the location. Once you got to know where the location is and how that file appears, we need to utilize it. So how I can utilize the random one? For example, print. Okay, I want to print some random values. So I will say I will take the name of the module, which is random. I will take the name of the module and put a dot. The moment you hit on dot, wait for few seconds, and it is going to show you all these properties: random, system random. Do you see? Is showing all this, and one of them property is read, right, random range. So this is the file that you need to, this is the property that I need to select. Okay, now let's see this in the file. Okay, let's see. If you open this random.py file, and if you scroll down, you will find this rand range property is mentioned or defined in this py file, and the same thing we are calling it random.randrange. Similar way you can call all other available properties that we have for this module. Okay, now this would require two different values. That is the, what is the starting point? Let's say 1 comma, and I have to give 10. So it should print a random value from 1 to 10. So let's execute quickly F5, and you can see it has printed 3. If I do again F5, so it is going to print all random values. If you see, it has printed 1. Let's do one more time, F5, and it has printed 9. So it is printing random values from 1 to 10. For this we have used a Python module whose name was random.py. So that's all about Python modules, guys. Hi everyone, myself Rakesh, and I welcome you back to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn casting, typecasting. So what is this word casting? So you have seen in the metal industries, they pour the melted metal into a mold, and this mold, right, after it cools down, it gives a specific form to the metal. So casting is a process of giving a specific form to something, right? Generally it is used in the metal industries. Now in the Python, what is typecasting? Let me tell you. Very simple, with an example we will understand. If I say x is equal to 5, what happens? Python understands, because you have written 5, the type of this x variable is integer type. If I say y is equal to 2.8, so because there is a decimal, it is a float type. If I say z equals to, in double quote if I write 3, then Python understand this is a string type. So how would I understand whether it's a string or not, or how do I check it? Very simple, within print type, use the type function, and within the double quote I am going to say x. So it is going to tell me what kind of a type it is. Is it an integer type or something else? Similar way, let's do it. Let's copy paste, and I am just going to change the variables y, and I'm going to change the variable to z. So let's Control S, F5, let's execute this. The moment you execute, it gives you the proper data. The first one is an integer, the second one is a float type, and the third one, because you have written in double quotes, it is a string type. This much understanding we have got. So Python automatically defines. Okay, very simple point. Python automatically defines. But what if the 2.8 what you have written, I want that, I don't want that after decimal. Let's say there are so many numbers after decimal, and I don't want the decimal numbers, I just want 2. So you have to give it a different form. So what is the current form? The current form is a float. I want to give it an integer form, so I have to cast it, right? Casting means giving it a specific form. So for that I will write a equals to, then what I will write, I will use the int function to cast it. This is the function you will be using, int, and then within int if I say y, right, then what would happen? If you say print, within double quotes if I say a, what will be printed? 2 will be printed, not the entire float number. So let's see that. Control S, F5, what happened? All the decimal has been removed and 2 is kept, because you wanted to cast it or give it a form of integer. So it has done its job. Happy? We are happy with that. Similar way, there are a couple of other functions I'm going to show you. Okay, let's delete everything. Let's say there are 3 functions we should practice. One is converting into integer, you will be using the int function. If you want to convert something into float, you will use the float function. If you want to convert something into string, you can use the string function. These are known as the constructive functions, or the constructor functions you can call it. Okay, what you can call as, or casting functions. Whatever name you call doesn't matter, but you should understand what is casting or constructor functions. So it constructs something, right? Constructs, constructor functions. Okay, using these three you will be able to convert something. So it is not exactly string because it's coming in, you have to say str. Okay, str. Okay, so these are the three different constructor functions, guys. Okay, so let's say I want to construct something to integer. I have given you the example float. Let's say I want to construct 3. Okay, 3, which is a string when I'm writing this way. So I want to construct something into a float format. So let's do that. Print, then print has to be closed in parenthesis. Done. So what would happen? This 3, which is a string, will be automatically converted into float. So let's see that. Control S, F5. So what happened? The 3, which was, it has now become 3.0. Similar way for string also you can do it. String, you want to convert something into string format. Let's say 2 point something is there, right? This is what I have to remove the, because if you put in double quote, it anyways becomes a string, right? So here I want to convert the float number into string. Print, and I want to convert that. Very simple. You can practice all this, very simple ones. Now if I do Control S and F5, what would happen? 3.0 2.845. So what happened? This has now become a string. If you want to see the type, you can also do, anyways we are converting this to string, so this is a string type. Okay, so all this you can practice, and very simple. Casting is nothing but you are giving something to a different form. It is already in a different form and you are giving it a different form. So there are a couple of rules. Okay, you cannot, let's say if you are writing Rakesh, this is a string. Can you convert this to float? No, no way. It has to be a number. Okay, very simple, common sense. So we can use a F5 and we can see there is an error because you can't convert Rakesh into a float, but you can convert some string which is written in double quote, right? Something like that into a float. It's already a float. So F5. Casting is nothing but we're using the constructor functions to do it. So thank you guys for watching it. We're going to meet again in the next video with something new. Take care. Bye bye.